Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mendon Board of Health meeting on Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. First order of business, we'll take roll call.
Joyce Gilmore, here.
Tom Pickner here.
Jack McClellan here. Alan Greenberg here. Thank you very much. Next we have to go to is good and welfare for the public. Is there anyone in the audience or at home that has anything they would like to offer Board of Health related? All right, thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 5B, 1 North Ave site development discussion.
We do have a representative from Bowler. His name is John Cusich. John, can you hear us? There he is.
Yep, I can hear you. I'm actually supposed to have a few other people here as well. So I see Doug jumping in. And we actually had our environmental consultant, but I don't see him on us at this point. So maybe I'm not sure if he's on. I don't see him. I just see Doug. Maybe if we give another minute, if you had another agenda item, perhaps, and we can jump.
We definitely do. We can come back to you.
Doug, does it make sense to wait for?
Yeah, I
Matt?
think that makes sense. I had a little difficulty logging in, so maybe he's having difficulty. My camera won't work, so why don't we give it a few minutes if that's okay with the board?
Yeah, sure. We'll come back to you.
Yeah, thanks for having us go first. We had apologies here. I'll try to call Matt in a cell.
No worries. We were just, shifting to you because you were available.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll come back to you. All right, we want to go to.
On the Cessia meeting yesterday with the town administrator.
Fantastic. All right, so we're going to go to 4B. Board of Health meeting with town administrator follow-up. Tom, you want to take that?
Well, if you run, you can, let it, you can.
All right.
We were both there. Grace was unable to
Yeah,
attend.
we.
I did get here.
All right, thank you. We met with the town administrator. We met with Jeremy. It was very refreshing to hear Jeremy's experience in the past with municipal trash. So he had a great understanding before we even got started of how some of these programs work on a town basis. He understood where we were coming from and the desire to make the program not only continue its success, but to make the burden of the costs allotted to the appropriate shoulders. So he understood, where we were coming from, and he actually already knew of the mechanisms that were needed on the accounting side to make things happen the way they're supposed to happen. Again, his experience on the finance side was wonderful. Really, it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be to explain where we were at and how we got there. We went through the whole history going back when this came to light about 8 years ago, and then moved forward so that he would sort of see how we got to today. He is going to work with the town's accounting people and contact legal because we're midstream in our tax year on the town side, to find out, he knows it can be done, but to find out what the steps are and how to go about it. If we're going to try to do something mid-year, I expressed that, as long as things were moving forward and not becoming stagnant again, if it, was too difficult or too complicated, I wasn't, opposed to not being able to complete where we'd like to be this year.
Right.
As long as everything was in play for the following year. This has been a slow step-by-step process already. But as long as we can keep moving forward, I personally was comfortable with whatever was gonna be best for the town.
Right.
As long as this is gonna happen. Yeah, Tom?
It's pretty much summed it up.
Good.
So we'll wait to hear from him, and his discussions with, the accounting, people that the town uses, and town council as to what the appropriate step is next.
Right.
So, I mean, all in all, it was a great meeting with him.
Right.
And I look forward to, working with him in the future. That's about it.
Right. That's good.
Any questions from the public?
No, if I could just chime in, our consultant's trying to call in. He said the meeting ID wasn't working for some reason. Not sure why it worked for Doug and I, but he's going to try to call in by phone to see if that works.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Go on our next one.
2 minutes.
I can do the minutes.
All right, so now we'll move to 4A, Board of Health minutes review and approval. Jack, I like the way you highlighted everything that we were adding to or subtracting from to make sure that they reflect the recording. Thank you very much. It made it very easy to follow along.
I want to thank Tom, because Tom was the one that was able to distinguish the changes properly.
Good team effort once
Team
again.
effort. There you go.
So, has everybody had an opportunity to do sections that were
Yeah.
worked on?
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions?
Mhm.
All right, so I'll ask for a motion after we're working on minutes for the date of
August
Wednesday,
28th.
August 28th. So I want a motion to approve the minutes, please.
I move we accept the minutes of Wednesday, August 28th, 2024.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
I,
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Joyce, I.
Thank you very much. Now again, we'll move to September 11th, 2024, the highlighted sections. Anyone have any questions with those sections?
No?
All right, I'll ask for a motion then to approve the minutes of September 11th, 2024.
I move that we accept the minutes as read of Wednesday, September 11th, 2024.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Joyce, I.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
We have a system.
I got it.
Good.
Got that down.
All right. Into permit fees right now.
No,
How we doing, gentlemen?
Might be on. Audio.
So I think
I think
Matt is on the phone now. I don't think he's having trouble with Teams, but I believe he's on the phone. So Matt, can you hear us?
Yes, this is Matt Heil.
All right, so we're going to now go to 5B, 1 North Ave Site Development Discussion. John, you're up.
All right. Well, thank you all for having us. John Cusick with Bowler. I've got Doug Troyer, who's visible on screen with me as well as Matt Heil, who you cannot see but is on via phone. And we're really here at your request. We had submitted a pretty standard, I think, septic application for the project. And I can share a screen if it's helpful.
yes, please.
Yep, perfect. All right. So this is the plan that we submitted. Just taking a step back, the property, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, essentially located right at North Ave and Milford Street. Currently vacant property. What we're proposing is about a 3,500 square foot bank located in this location where my cursor is, and about a 5,500 square foot just retail building located here. To support those buildings, they're low generator buildings for sure, but to support those buildings, we've got a proposed septic system located up in the call it the northern portion of the site. So we submitted the full septic plans for review. And I think one of the comments that came back, really kind of outside the septic system, but more just big picture, was, is there a concern with any of the I guess the past uses on the site or in the vicinity anyway, as there was an apple orchard years ago located, I think really on to the east of us on the town-owned land. So the request was, asking us to do some additional testing, which I think we want to do the right thing, but I don't think testing is what's needed. And to that end, let me show you the exhibit we've got here. So this is just an overlay of an old aerial. This is we went back a bunch of years, but there was an orchard. You can kind of see the trees over here. This one was from 97, I think. That was probably the last one we saw it. So sometime after that, the orchard was removed. But you'll notice our property in yellow, which is really outside of that. However, when you have a situation where you've got an orchard, where you've got some soils that may have been impacted by it, I think really what you typically will end up doing is dust control is what you want to do, which we don't have an issue with doing that. It's frankly, it's good engineering and construction practice. So we're planning on doing that anyway. But with that, I have I'm a civil engineer. I'm not an environmental consultant. So I've got Matt Heil on the phone who can kind of talk to that a little bit more than I can in more detail and answer any questions. But I think big picture just on the plan and where we're located. Any questions with that?
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement that I can make because I've lived on the corner up the street for a lot of years and been in town for 50 years. So, and I know that they had a huge barn there at the same time behind the house that they had a house, and then they had a barn there, and in that barn I know they had all their equipment for doing spraying with the arsenic in a big like a big on its side barrel, and they would take the spraying and sprayers out and spray the fruit and the trees.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a concern to me that they must have had a lot of spillage, that sort of thing.
So I can let Matt speak to that. I have no idea if there was spillage or not. I obviously can't speak to that, but there wouldn't have been any spraying done on the site. The spraying would have been done on the town land, to the north and east. But there was not an orchard on the subject property. That said, there are state regulations relative to kind of how that gets managed and really what it all means. And that's why I wanted to bring Matt here, because he can speak to that better than I can.
Yep,
So.
I'd be happy to. Well, my name's Matt Heil. I'm with Sanborn Head. We're a geo-environmental firm. I'm a professional environmental engineer and a licensed site professional, or LSP. We're the folks who are licensed to assess these things and clean up contaminated properties. And, we evaluate the site-specific human health risk, to determine if a site is safe or not. and as Board of Health, you folks probably worked alongside LSPs before, I'd imagine. So I've been at this a while, and I'm really sorry I couldn't get the Zoom working. I don't know what that is, but it is what it is. But I have been working in this industry for 29 years. I've worked on a lot of historical orchards, by assessing the arsenic risk and managing that during redevelopment, including some of the most sensitive residential sites. So, assessing those risks, making it safe is what I do professionally. And so I was asked to take a look at the board's concerns, as I understood it, for the potential for contaminated dust and dust exposures to get kicked up during the earthwork. And is that a risk? Is that not a risk? And, and to the board, to your credit, this is exactly what you should be asking about. So that's good. In this particular case, I think for basically two reasons, it would be my professional opinion that soil sampling for arsenic here just isn't needed, because the potential for arsenic dust exposures is just not that significant, as far as I can tell, for a couple reasons. Number one, and it's really specific to orchards like this, that the residual arsenic from the spraying really is found is almost limited entirely to the shallow topsoil immediately below where the trees were, where it dripped down after they got sprayed, and it sticks to that organic topsoil. It's a geochemical process called adsorption, and it just sort of sits there. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't degrade. It just sticks to the soil. And I think hopefully you can see from the aerial photo that the site area just doesn't extend into the historical orchard area, which you can see from historical photos going way back and topo maps. And it's just been my consistent experience when we sample inside orchards, you could see arsenic in that shallow soil. But then when you just go outside the boundary, you don't see elevated arsenic in the soil. The arsenic just sort of stays put where it's dripped from the trees. And simply put, the site soils wouldn't have elevated arsenic, since the site itself was not the working orchard, as I understand it. And the other reason is a bit more technical, and it just has to do with the actual human health risk calculations that we run for hypothetical human receptors. One pathway that we often evaluate is in fact just that, the ingestion and inhalation of dust, to see if we need to take any cautionary actions. Do we need to bump up the PPE on site or whatever? Even if you assume this soil has residual arsenic, typical to an orchard history, typical in my experience, maybe arsenic at 100 milligrams per kilogram or thereabouts, which I doubt is there. But even if you had that, the most conservative human health risk assessments show it's safe, that it would be what we call no significant risk in Massachusetts for both potential cancer, long-term risks, and non-cancer risks. So, and these risk characterizations, in fact, we purposely try to overestimate the risk by making really conservative assumptions to be overly protective. Like, for instance, we assume that it's complete direct exposure for 6 months for 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, 6 days a week for the most sensitive receptor, which in this case would be a baby from 1 to 2 years old, and the risk is still acceptable. So, and I guess just on top of that, if standard earthwork best management practices are followed, which I think John alluded to, in layman's terms, just talking about keeping soil moist, and so there's no visual dust allowed, which really is the best management practice, then the actual dust exposure is even lower than what we assume in our human health risk calcs, because the calcs conservatively assume you've got so much dust in the air that you can actually see it. in other words, the calcs assume you've got a dust cloud leaving the site for 6 months, which I know nobody around there would tolerate. So, what it all boils down to is just to making sure the dust risk is safe, is we just make sure the exposed soils stay moist while they're exposed, should they become dry. And real easy way to check that is just make sure you don't see visible dust. So that's probably more detail than you want, but that's my opinion as to why I don't think you need to look for arsenic here for earthwork. You just need to manage the soil, properly during the earthwork, which I would hope wouldn't even extend to a whole 6 months, but I'm not quite sure. And that's a mouthful. But that's my opinion. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Will you be doing any kind of a covered parking area with not going to be a dirt parking area and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I can speak to that. But not at all. It will be a traditional paved parking lot. All of the areas that are outside of the pavement, aren't pavement, aren't building, that would be topsoil and seeded. So we would have a fully stabilized site, which we would need to do by the construction general permit anyway. But it will be a fully paved site. All of the impervious areas will be paved.
As I said, my concern was that having, been there, walked through the orchards, done all that stuff and picked apples there too. And, but I did know that their arsenic, tank was outside in the barn. So, I'm thinking that if it's going to be paved over and everything, that should eliminate any concerns, really, Frank.
Yeah, no, it will definitely be paved. And that was the plans that were submitted to the planning board and fully kind of reviewed by them and their peer review consultants, just by way of compliance with zoning, materials, stormwater, that sort of thing.
No, that's probably a good observation, because what's often done on these sites when you are in the orchard and you've got to manage that old topsoil, it oftentimes gets kind of consolidated and buried in some safe place where it can be, covered, so that exposure cannot happen. So that's glad to hear it.
Gentlemen, if I may, Alan Greenberg, chairman of the board. What's the expense of testing your site for arsenic, especially where the barn that Joyce remembers and I remember, along with the spraying equipment, was housed, maintained, I'm assuming cleaned out. Is there a big expense? I don't understand the reluctance.
I'm not sure it's an expense issue. It's just there's no need to, is really what it comes down to. I think any material, if we have to take material off the site, we got to test it to take it off the site. That's before you bring it anywhere. It's got to get tested at that point. Anything on the site would be fully covered anyway. And as Matt had mentioned, really the risk, with anything like that is dust, and we would manage the dust. So I don't, like, even if we came back and tested it and it came back and it showed arsenic, which none of us think is the case, it wouldn't change the end conclusion from what we're talking about.
And I also think Matt real quick. I also think Matt has indicated that, basically, even if it came back with results, the mitigation that we are willing to basically do, pretty much is resolving. If we're basically putting belts and suspenders on it just to basically cover any potential issue, and then basically keeping the soil on the property as well as paving over it is exactly what the mitigation would, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but that's basically what the mitigation would call for to do it. And we're basically saying, let's just cut to the chase. We'll do the mitigation no matter what, so that we can proceed with the project.
Okay, gentlemen, you are aware that there's an elementary school right across the street from this site?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, and I saw that right away. And even more of a receptor would be even closer residential properties. You know, like a child at an elementary school has just a few years, whereas a person living in a home has an entire lifetime to be exposed. So that's actually more of a critical exposure pathway. And either way, we're covered here, in my opinion.
And
Does that make sense?
who is
And I believe-
responsible to monitor the site to make sure that all these practices are followed?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, John, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I know on our end, we'll end up visiting the site and check in on construction. We have to prepare a SWIP, you know, and as part of that, we've got to do inspections just to make sure that they're not causing erosion and dust isn't leaving the site. And that's part of what we do on our end. We'll do some observations as part of that. Beyond that, really the day-to-day, it would be the site super, you know, be made aware of the conditions, and, you know, that's really their job to, you know, to monitor that on a day-to-day, you know, whether it be bringing in a water truck, you know, if it's going to be a dry time of year, to make sure that that's coming in and watering the soils. And that's really how they'd handle it. You know, it's a pretty simple way to do it. It's really just a water truck.
Yeah, no, I you know, as a relative layperson to the knowledge of arsenic, I just have memories of the orchard and the concern of an elementary school across the street. As far as, you know, dealing with it and, you know, how you work with it, you guys are the experts. But I guess I want to make sure that if we get a call from a resident, we know who to call that's responsible to get the complaint taken care of.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you can certainly call me. My name's on the plan, and, you know, I'll be again checking in on the site, and I've got a direct line to the owner and the rep, and can make sure that message gets sent over loud and clear in an immediate fashion.
But when are you
We're waiting on the-
anticipating starting? Do you have a start-off date?
You know what? I don't know, to be completely honest with you. If I had a guess, I'd probably do it in the spring, you know, rather than starting now. But I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, there's currently, basically, we just obtained our special permit site plan from the planning board, I think about 2-3 weeks ago. So we're basically through the, waiting on the written decision and basically the appeal period to run on that. I think that there's some marketing still going on by the owner to basically fill some of the retail aspects of it. But as we are coming up on the winter, I don't anticipate construction on this site commencing until at least probably the spring of next year, because we still have to do some additional construction plans and things like that. There's conditions by the planning board in which we have to comply with, and having a contact person for the Board of Health is absolutely no problem whatsoever. Once we basically have it, the project team that's actually going to do the construction, we can provide that both to the town, to the building inspector, to planner. We'd also be willing to provide it to you guys. You also have my name as local, basically the permitting council, as well as John, who we will still be involved in it after the fact. So we're happy to give you names. Our intentions, as we said, was to be 100% transparent with you guys, and that's why we wanted to go over this issue and basically say, look, let's just cut to the chase. We're willing to basically do what mitigation would be necessary if there was levels there. And given the fact that what we're looking to do there, and given the fact that I believe there's 2 single residents on this, as well as the barn, those were demoed, I believe, back in 2006, 2007. And I don't think the apple orchard has really been in operation for a while, but it's, you know, these are concerns that we take seriously. Having an elementary school close by, residential's close by. This property had single family homes on it for a significant period of time as well. But we want to take those extra measures to make sure that there is any dust that make sure there is no dust that's going to come off of the property during excavation time period. So that's what we're willing to do, and hopefully appeases any concerns of which your board has.
Do you have any further comments from our town engineer, Jack?
No.
Fellow board members, does that satisfy our concerns at this time?
I mean, I think they make a good point. Again, their property is not on the orchard itself. And, you know, they're doing the concrete and in areas there, and they have testing there. So, you know, that was my concern, that, you know, I knew how sloppy they were back in the day. You know, you'd see it dripping, you know, so, you know, I'm having been there, done that. I was just concerned about it, you know.
Well, definitely not my area of expertise, so I'd have to defer to the folks here on the call. And I appreciate you all attending tonight, and helping to alleviate concerns. It sounds like they have a plan in place and a view on the concern to anticipate, looking to kind of address and how they're going to handle the process as they go forward. If there was nothing else that, say, Tom would have any questions about concerns, and I'm referring to our town engineer, Tom Ryder. Yeah, sounds to me like, you know, they're well positioned, and these folks here have the knowledge. I can only go by what I'm hearing, and it sounds pretty positive, you know.
All right then, gentlemen, at this time, I would say you've, satisfied our questions. And I will remind you that this meeting is recorded.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess my biggest concern again is the elementary school in close proximity to the property, and being able to answer any questions from anyone that attends that school or children attend that school, to be able to put them at ease as to what's going on across the street. So I would say at this time, you've satisfied our questions. I appreciate your professionalism and look forward to working with you on this project.
Great. Yeah, we thank you, and we appreciate you raising the issue. And again, we're kind of all in it together, right? So we appreciate you bringing that up and giving us the opportunity to come in and again let Matt speak, as he's smarter than I am on this stuff. So it's good to kind of bring somebody in to educate all of us on it. So thank you for that. I truly appreciate it.
All right.
Excellent.
Good evening.
Okay.
Thank you
you
very
all.
much.
Have a good night.
All right, you as well.
Folks.
I mean, truth be known, that their point is well taken, because the most arsenic would have been in the other property.
Downslope.
Downslope, and
Well, just to
where
add
the
to
trees
that,
were and stuff, yeah.
I had included in the packet this visual.
Mhm.
And the reason I did that was because on the previous meeting, I made reference to testing 21E. It was actually done with 3 note that.
So it was an actual Tony Mooney.
It was a 21E.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the property that abuts, the one with that. And I thought that the test holes were done above the wall. But if you take a look at this graphic,
Uh-huh.
you'll see where the test holes actually are.
Okay, and they're beyond the wall.
They're actually down in the orchard field,
Right.
most of them,
Right.
except for this
That one
one
right there,
here.
which is that, and that's a good point there,
Right,
you know, to say,
right. So even though there's only one test hole up
Right.
here,
right,
if that's the major area concerned where the actual orchard was positioned,
and it was negligible,
it was what?
the testing was negligible,
It was, well, I'm waiting on the actual test results. So
okay,
Jack had electronically sent me the test results. I'm sorry. Phil sent me the test results that he received from DNL Design Group. Phil Sepley is the co-chair of the senior building
Okay.
committee. When I took a look at them, and Jack and I were looking at them, we couldn't see what we were looking for. And which is essentially, we were trying to focus in on the results, the soil results
Testing
for arsenic,
yeah, right,
just to see what, but we couldn't see them. There was a lot of other information that was included in that report. A lot of it had to do with 1 Milford Street. And a lot of it had to do with, which may be a standard when they're doing this, had a multiple listing of all the wells in the areas,
uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh,
You may know,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but it was supposed to be an appendix there that was gonna highlight, but it didn't come up with any data. So I actually went to DNL the other day and they're gonna arrange to send me what might have been missing from the report.
Oh, good,
But in the interim, I wanted you folks to see the graphic of where the actual test holes was.
Yeah,
I thought the holes were all done on this side of the wall.
right,
When I saw that they were mostly all done in the orchard area,
right,
it's like, wow, that's even makes me feel better.
right.
right,
That if the report
was good,
was clean, as
Yeah.
just a general statement,
yeah,
that's an even better
yeah,
situation.
Yeah.
So which would potentially not make me as concerned about
right, down in there,
21E or a test for
Right,
arsenic
yeah, right,
in this upper area of 1 North Ave.
Yeah, again, just knowing where the equipment barn was,
Right.
and I can still picture in my mind,
Me
just
too.
like Joyce, I could picture that rust colored
yeah,
two-wheeled,
yeah,
sprayer
right,
Yeah.
that they use. I think, I know exactly, you
Yeah.
described it very
Yeah.
well.
right,
And again, I think my senses wouldn't have been as heightened
Mhm.
if it wasn't for the elementary school.
right,
And because if there are concerns now, because maybe nobody knows what
Yeah.
going on across the street,
right,
there may be concerns in the future from a lot of these moms and dads of these elementary school
Well,
kids. And I want to have answers for them.
absolutely.
And, just like I presented to these gentlemen, if we have to dial someone up, I want to know who the responsible party is, that we have to dial up. If we can't answer a question on our own or a concern,
right,
and again, none of us have handled arsenic in our lifetime,
right,
so we don't know how to use it,
right,
how to prevent contamination, things like that. That was something the generation before us
used,
that worked in the agricultural industry would have a lot more knowledge, and most of them not present at this time.
right,
Because we know better and we don't use that type of chemical.
right,
And I mean, it's just a matter of, I don't want to have another situation like we did with the blast. Where it was a little difficult in the beginning to answer residents' questions as to what was going on, how long it was going on. I'd like to be prepared.
Mhm.
And I mean, in the end, not that it's over, but it has seemed to work out once we started talking with the site rep.
right,
But
And I think there's the difference between the two situations. We're writing before this is even started, doing an investigation, asking a question, whereas that work started and was underway and was ongoing before the Board of Health ever got involved.
Right.
And that's the big difference. So we're kind of catching this
Right.
concern
right,
right up front.
Right, and we know who the gentlemen are that can answer our questions or concerns.
and if there's none in there, that tested Good.
When the turn that came back was tested clean.
Right.
But I wanted to see the actual test
Test
results
yeah.
and show them to you folks, especially yourself, having the background, to see the actual measurements.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So,
we should be getting that, and I,
right. Yeah, and, you know, forward them to Tom Ryder,
Right.
well,
you know, but I think, well, to your point, we're ahead of the game.
Right. And it's always good
Rather
to,
than
good to,
trying to catch up.
I'm
right.
trying to catch up.
And that's a lot because
And the other thing that I think that's going to happen, I mean, they're going to keep an eye on that. They're going to make sure that there is no dust. They're going to do that. They're going to, and then they'll do tarring over, if that's a good word, you know, they'll be
everything will be sealed.
sealed up, you know, so that's even better. That you're never gonna ever have to worry about that again.
And plus, it's
So,
all flush.
correct,
well, I think the sealing up part, for me, didn't make too much of a difference, because that's the end. The issue, at least I thought, was the disturbance,
right, when you
In the
build the
process.
building, yeah, right,
digging it up.
Right,
So
right.
if they're going to take mitigating steps
Right.
and standing in that process
Mm.
to alleviate that concern, with how they handle it, how they, and so forth.
right,
Great, but the fact that they were gonna put asphalt down after the fact, that's
right. No,
after
but,
all the work, all the
But-
disturbance has been done, so.
but if they, I mean, a lot of times that people, they have a gravel, like not a gravel, but a stone driveway, you know, and that wouldn't be good, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
in that way.
Oh,
But,
I see what you're saying, the compound being,
Correct.
compound being asphalt,
correct,
being sold, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, okay, versus
thank you.
something loose, gotcha, okay, yeah,
Okay.
I get it,
All right, so we'll move on.
Yep,
yeah.
All right. Do we want to go to?
Before you move on, just one thing, it was unrelated specifically to the asking, but I was gonna maybe turn to you as a confirmation. I was looking at the suitability assessment for this site, and it just had checked off, in the certain test holes. When it, mentioned, unsuitable materials present, the answer was yes. So are these materials, do they have something to do with the answering that question?
no, it means like what we have up in our area, our whole area is what's called,
Glacial too,
glacial till.
so just that.
Glacial till is like concrete when you wet it, and you dig and you got it, and it doesn't perk well,
Okay,
right? It's all that it's creepy. And, you know, and I mean, the fact that like, I have that at my house, I have it in the back garden, which is good in the summertime because the water stays up for the garden. And it doesn't dry out really, you know, unless it's a huge, you know, no rain, no summer type thing, which we've had a couple of years now. But it doesn't, it keeps the water up, you know, so that's why it doesn't test well. That's why when I was watching all the tests at up there, and I watched every single one. And I can tell you, you know, that where there was no way you could get it, any kind of septic system. And that was in the main thing where they're gonna put the houses.
okay, so it wasn't in reference to any kind of chemical, especially
Yeah.
this particular material. It's.
Yeah.
Quality of the soil
Correct,
and what you can do with it.
right.
Gotcha, okay.
And yeah, it wants to stay there and keep the water.
Yeah.
You know,
All right. Anything else on Northampton? All right, so with your permission, we're gonna move on. Keep the meeting rolling here. I think we should go to Board of Health permit fees,
Yes.
right? So we're going to 5A for anyone that's following along. And Jack prepared this nice spreadsheet for us, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, so only concentrating on the food establishments. Colleen has sat down and figured out how long it does take her to do an inspection. So I figured out Colleen's, the TCP at the top stands for total compensation package. That's whatever the town puts in towards her salary and also my salary. So if you look, for example, food service for 75 seats, that does involve me and Colleen's time. My time's about a half hour. Colleen's inspection is about 2 hours. She does 2 inspections a year. And so for hourly wage would be $213.56. And we're currently charging $100 for a food permit for the year.
I got a little confused by the titles in some of the columns.
Okay.
But I think you might have clarified it. So,
Right.
in the first column, you had admin per hour,
Yes, that's me.
Administrative.
administrative,
Yes.
right? So the value is 0.5.
Yes. Okay.
When you say, I think of per hour. See, it's just stating your administrative hours
For that particular job.
is
For that.
a half hour.
It's half hour.
So it's not per hour, it's administrative hours.
It's half hour of my time to look at the food.
Right, what I'm saying is when I see that hash mark, it makes it, it's a per symbol. So if I had a
All
dog.
right, so let me see what you're saying.
Sure, it's just it's a tally of your admin hours for that task.
Correct.
Right.
So just admin hours.
Yes.
Right, okay,
Correct,
got it, okay. And so for, the first one in red, inspection per hours, that's actually
That's
inspection.
many hours done for that inspection.
All right, so it takes 2 hours. And the next one, every 6 months, the number of inspections.
She does two.
2, every 6 months.
No, two, like every 6 months, she has
months
to
is-
do an inspection, so that's 2
Two,
total.
two per year.
So it's 2 per year.
Yes.
It's not every 6 months.
No.
So
No.
it's annual.
Correct.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Okay, so annual number of inspections 2, okay. Okay. And out of curiosity, what is the actual per hourly dollar?
Well, Colleen,
Well, that's her total compensation package.
Right.
I want to know the dollar, just her hourly.
That's right there.
Including the
I
compensation.
want to say $37.01.
Okay, just wanted to see what the balance was between the package and her actual pay.
Okay.
So,
Joyce, any questions?
No, I thought it made so much sense to me because I like to think like this and,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
no, I agree.
and I like, okay, that's great.
Jack, my question would be, so when I see the total column of 263.10,
Mhm.
that's our total expense.
Correct,
Okay. And we're charging 100,
correct,
so we're in the hole.
correct.
Okay. That's what I thought. So you're proposing we bring it up to 200 to get a little closer to our costs. Okay. Well, I understand that. And as I went through all the permit fees in that same fashion, I saw that there were some that we were behind and some that we were ahead.
Mhm.
So I agree with some of the proposed column because we don't want to, we can't necessarily shock our people and recover all our costs on the ones we're in the hole for
Mhm.
all in one fell swoop. And on the other hand, we know that there are some that even though our fee prices are reasonable, our expenses aren't that much. So we're sort of making up for it in other areas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I understood that.
Yeah.
Anybody have an idea how they want to approach going through these? Do we want to go through them one at a time? Obviously, Jack needs to make these adjustments so we don't have a lot of time to catch some of these expenses that we're incurring.
well, just to clarify, so what is your TCP?
My TCP is 45.68 an hour.
45.58,
Yes, 68.
45.68 is your TCP?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it made sense, having done these jobs personally myself back in the day. I mean, I did everything. And I know how long it took and how busy you were. And, I mean, I did have a food inspector. I can't say that. I did hire, but he was making a fair amount of money then. And, I mean, I can't remember now exactly how much it was, but, he was happy with what he was paying. And in the beginning, I did the inspections and said, this is, we need to do this differently because it's better if I'm more independent and not knowing everybody that I deal with. And he came and did a great job and we worked together very well.
Okay, so I guess, like I said, my question is, do we want to go through these one at a time and see what makes sense based on all the supporting information?
And when you say, what makes sense,
Well-
what are you trying to target? Deciding whether we want to increase or not increase? Is that
Yes.
what you're shooting for? Okay,
Because now we know what our expenses are.
all right,
We know what we're currently charging.
Yep.
And we know that, in all fairness, because we haven't raised our fees in a while, we
Right.
we can't expect to cover all our costs, today's costs,
Right.
but
all
you're,
at once.
you're under the premise though, that the only way that this money is getting compensated is through the fees. Is that what you're assuming? Or what you believe to be happening?
I believe that we should be charging the appropriate amount to cover as much of our expenses to perform these activities as possible.
Would you want to factor in any other mechanism that does compensate these fees?
Which would be what?
And like,
Taxes,
I beg your pardon?
our
Oh,
taxes,
taxes.
our, from an employee perspective, kind of talked about this before. And the packages that go along with that, that's factored into how we pay our taxes.
Mhm.
It's an expense that's, we all pay for. So
Why
the
don't
compensation,
we charge a fee in the beginning?
there you go. So now you're going different.
Well, I'm asking the question,
Now that's a fair question.
okay? Do we just charge these fees because everybody else does? Would we charge these fees? And I'm very possibly making an assumption because I wasn't there when fees came into effect.
Mhm.
Fees are charged to pay for the inspectors.
Right.
Yeah, and typically, the way I look at it is it's kind of like how we were pricing the trash program. We were taking into account the external invoicing expenses that we received from the various entities. E.L. Harvey, Willabrator, now Wind Waste, Kelly Ryan for their part of it. We took all those expenses, what those costs were going to be, and to us, those were our expenses. And then we divvied that up amongst 1,900 X number of households, and that's how we came up with the rate to charge the subscribers to cover those expenses that we knew we'd get bills for. Here you've got money being this money we're talking about between Colleen and Jack, both are employees of the town of Mendon, being compensated by the taxes that we all pay. So it does raise the question, there's no element here now where we're getting an outside, for this group, where we're getting an outside invoice. From, like, previously we had our health agent was a contractor. We would get an invoice for that service. We don't have that now. This is our health agents in-house. So now it begs the question.
Well, I don't, what do you mean, I don't understand.
So previously when we
Well,
had,
like, I mean, Stephen Donatelli,
well, I'm just talking, we're talking about the food, just this top portion right now. I'm just referencing the top part that's covered by.
right, but I think it all goes together.
Well, we can hit it individually. I'm just making reference to the top section.
Right,
So if we just look at the top section, that Colleen covers. Jack's involved in, actually, he's only in the top section. Right,
You know, small amounts,
in the other areas,
small amounts here and there for the stuff that the board approves, well.
Right,
Specific polymers.
Yeah. but Pauline's involved in everything.
So,
In the top section.
but the food service people are the ones that are going to pay that.
Well, the
They're-
establishments or
Yeah,
whatever it is that applies, a food truck, food
Right.
establishment.
they're paying,
They are paying,
right.
right. What I'm saying is, Alan was alluding to getting compensated for what we're expending and trying to match initially, voicing it, trying to match the fee to match what the cost is to do the service. What I'm saying is the cost to do the service is paid for by all the taxpayers because both Colleen and Jack are employees of the town. So it's in our taxes.
But should the burden to perform all these duties
Because, be on the taxpayer, yeah,
to be on the back of the taxpayers? So,
That's not right.
okay, because if you really wanted to dissect this
Mhm.
and put all the overheads in,
Mhm.
these numbers would be large.
Well, I get it. What I'm getting at is, point being is that I don't necessarily agree that the direction to go is to raise the fee to match this column.
And I'm proposing we move it closer.
Okay,
I'm not proposing that we go, just for example, food service 0 to 75 seats. I'm not proposing we bump it to 263.10.
right, so,
And I'm proposing, and I'll do that right now, that we review this annually. Because I want it to be fair and equitable for both parties concerned. I don't want to put a burden on an unfair burden on our businesses.
correct.
And on the other hand, I don't feel that the taxpayers should shoulder an unnecessary burden.
Well, the businesses are also taxpayers.
They are. But they might not be taxpayers to the extent that you and I are, say, own the building that they're in.
Well, then that's gonna take a little research.
A lot of them are renters.
Hmm.
Okay, so unless they have triple net leases, they're not paying real estate taxes, which are our biggest tax. So I'm gonna repeat myself, I'm looking to bend the needle as close to right as possible.
Okay.
Without putting an unfair burden on either side of the equation,
Okay,
because I personally feel that's the responsible thing to do as a Board of Health member.
okay.
But we're all entitled to have different opinions and different degrees on everything. And that's how we manage to work well together.
Yeah.
By questioning those things.
Well, stupid question. Do we know where the money that we collect for our permits everywhere in town, where that money goes to at the end of the day?
Goes back to the town.
To do what? Does it help with taxes? To make taxes, keep taxes lower? Does it go to somewhere else?
Well, pays the bills.
Okay.
And
Some
any
of those
dollars,
bills,
yes.
some of those bills are payroll. Benefits, like keep the lights on, keep the heat on.
I don't think it's going
It's-
directly to any one source.
Okay.
Just it's a combination of monies. It's like a pool of money
Right.
that the town will draw from for various needs.
It pays, like I said, for the heat, the lights, the maintenance of the buildings, the salaries, the vehicles. A lot of overheads that we didn't put into this number because there's no way for us to do that accurately.
Okay.
This is probably about as fine tuned as you can get it reasonably.
and my point is
But we
that
don't
we,
think the electric bill is for.
No, we don't.
we need to do this service. We want the food service business to be top notch. Because back in the day, you could have poisoning and all kinds of stuff. People would not do the things. So you had to go in there and make sure that their kitchen was clean, that their people were servicing, that all of these things, and that is very important. That is for the town. That's for the people.
Yeah,
And there's a cost for that. And I think that that's a reasonable cost.
and I don't argue. I mean, these are not only things we need to do. In a lot of cases, the things that by law we have to do.
Agreed, whether we were
Right.
collecting
So-
a fee or not.
Exactly, so they have to
Right.
get done.
Right,
So I wouldn't want to eliminate these services by,
Right.
by means, what I'm just saying that the monies that are, the cost for the services that Jack has laid out here, or at least I'll say this first group that involved Jack and Colleen,
right,
because they're employees of the town. That payroll is factored into the tax, is factored into the rate that we all pay in the tax base,
right,
because it's an expense the town incurs. They figure out payroll included, what it's gonna cost to run the town in any given year. That's how they figure out what the taxes should be per household and or business, right?
right,
So that's being done. Their monetary, their hourly rate or their payroll, their salary, and their healthcare package is already being paid for by us.
right. But what's happening is they're contributing, the restaurants are contributing to that. Because that they have to have inspections and they have to, that is at a cost.
Right, and
And it's done at an hourly, how much it takes per hour to do
Right.
and what they do. And I mean, to me, again, having been there, having done that, I mean, and you go back and forth to them like 6 and 8 times sometimes because they're not, you know, I mean, I had a person that was pretty well known in the area and ran into the old, where the Lowell's is now, did a restaurant there and was not doing anything that I said and was not happy when I said to him, you have to have either a dishwasher, or you have to have 3 sinks. And I'm gonna come back and next week and see, and called me on the phone and said,
Well, that's not a, you're describing something that, there's a problem. These seem to be regular things that have to happen once and or, well, in this case, once and or twice a year. Like, it's a given.
right,
They will happen.
right,
But you're describing is something that may not actually happen all the time. It may be an occurrence that happens
Right.
where it's discovered in an inspection.
right.
So you gotta go,
And that's that's how it gets settled. That's how
Right.
it becomes better by the inspection. And, you know, there are people who tend to be a little yeah, I was thinking diabolical.
but in the scheme of
That's where
things,
if they could get away with it, they would get away with it. You know what I mean?
well, but in the scheme of things, I think the reality is we're very fortunate in this community that we have a very good business base that
Right,
follows the rules. And when there's an issue with maybe a couple of exceptions here and there, and as Colleen has pointed out on many occasions, they've been very receptive
Right,
and they've made the correction. And in some cases, just out of not being aware or not having a full understanding, the light bulb goes on when Colleen explains it. So I don't see this community having a major problem with business in terms of compliance.
all right, I'm gonna,
Anyway,
just for the sake of time
yeah,
and the urgency, that it's super urgent.
Yeah.
We do need to get this done so we don't hold Jack up.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement that we need to have fees
right,
and it's appropriate to have fees. I use 2 words, need and appropriate.
well, so, but you kind of alluded to it when you asked that question, why do we have fees? If, I know why we had fees, but now our structure is such, I'm only referencing the top portion now. Only
Okay.
only the section.
Okay.
Only that section. That area is covered by employees of the town. Are compensated hourly and through a package. that money, that compensation is paid for by the taxpayers of the town of Maine.
And see, my argument would be
Yep.
that we still need to fairly shoulder the burden
Correct.
between the businesses and the taxpayers.
Right.
There are things that taxpayers pay for that they don't use.
And when I say taxpayers, I'm just being residential. I'm including the businesses.
Well, I am too.
Okay, good.
Every real estate taxpayer in town,
Yep, okay.
okay? There are some things that our taxes go to that particular taxpayer may not take advantage of.
Mhm.
However, pay, because that's based on the value of your property. Okay, and all those expenses are budgeted by the town based on all the bills that they need to pay. Or things that they want to attain. Fire engine, whatever. We need to review our rates. We haven't done it since 2008. Unless there's another method.
Well, I'm all for the review process. It's something we're kind of just getting under. I just wouldn't want to rush it to try to meet his timeline for what you want to do in January 2025. Maybe it requires a little more.
It's the beginning of October.
That's what I'm saying is you're trying to lock it in to make adjustments that you feel are necessary to accommodate what he's going to put out for people to meet January 1, 2025.
Correct.
Right. What I'm saying is that this is something which just kind of getting going. If it was something we started at the beginning of the year, 2024, we kind of worked it through and kind of thought things through a bit. But I just wouldn't want to rush it for the purposes of trying to meet that January 1, 2025 time. That's all. It seems like you're ready to make a monetary increase.
Well, we've come up with our expenses. We have a proposed column. I want to have a discussion and see where we're at.
Okay.
Now, if we can't get through all of it in time for Jack to get enough notice,
Mhm.
then we can't get through all of it. We can get through some of it.
Okay.
Some may be more easier than others, and that's why I asked the question, how do we want to approach this? Do we want to go line by line? Do we want to pick a section that seems to be easier to make a decision on and have less discussion than another section?
Well,
I'm open to where we go.
I'll tell you from my perspective right now, that first section of food establishments, my view would be no change on any at this particular time.
Okay, and the reason is,
Pending further review,
okay,
further research.
so you don't feel as though we have enough time to go through each of those items?
We just commented it's October.
It's the beginning of October.
Right.
And that's fine. Joyce, do you want to skip over the first section?
Well, you know, having been there, having done that, I feel that it's important. And I think that, that's reasonable. I've, again, been there, done that. And unfortunately, at that time, I mean, I wasn't getting paid at all, so it's not, and, I'm not gonna get paid now for it either, so. But I know how much work it is. I know what, and I know it's, and basically, back in the day, I can tell you stories, but that people didn't like it in the beginning, but I did things and, I taught CPR to all the wait staff and doing stuff. So then the Heimlich maneuver and blah, blah, blah. And, I didn't charge them anything. Nobody got charged. But, when somebody had an incident where they were choking on some steak. And the person that I taught the Heimlich maneuver to, went in the restaurant, went and saved that older woman. The person that owned the restaurant came, knocked on my door and said, you know, I am sorry because you are doing this and that saves me from probably getting sued, A, B, and all this stuff. So, I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, it's not an easy job either, because you have to, you know, people are reluctant to want to change and do things different and, you know,
All right, so we've all reviewed what Jack has provided us.
yeah.
Is there a section that we feel that we can get started on at this point? Or do we need more time to review all this?
Well, so let's say now, and the only reason I stated what I stated regarding that first section was only because the two individuals involved in the description are employees of the town. That's the only reason. There's no contractor involved in that first group.
Okay.
That's the only reason. Now, looking at other areas where we get outside bills
Mhm.
and invoices, that's a different story.
Well,
Or potentially a different story.
let's pick a section that we're all in agreement.
Okay.
And try to make some forward progress if necessary,
If necessary.
because there may be categories that we find that no adjustment is
Would be
required.
needed. That's true.
But right now, we're going nowhere.
Right, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say we're going nowhere. I think we're having a very good discussion.
Oh, yeah, but we all had time to review this, and I guess I thought I made the assumption to my
I
mistake
think there was an assumption there
that
that fees were going
we
on.
were ready to go.
Well, no, when you say ready to go.
Well,
I was
we
ready,
were ready to have a discussion.
well, we are having a discussion. I think what you were assuming, you might have been assuming is that you were ready to make a jump in fees.
But
Based on
how about,
what you saw on the current,
Mhm,
and based on what you saw in the proposed,
mhm,
and based on what you saw in this total yellow column,
mhm.
not considering the view I gave with regard to they're compensated by the taxpayers of the town. That's all.
Okay.
how about if we go
We-
down to
we-
the, how about if we go down
Table
to,
this for another meeting?
May I suggest that we table this till the October 23rd meeting? Give the board more time to review and think about things. And I can let the food establishments and all the other applications know that are due January 1st. Like, please be aware that I'll take the permits offline. And just let them know that when the applications are being revised, the application will be available November 1st or October 24th.
Well, I think, so I've raised a discussion point here that hadn't been raised before with regard to fees. This is obviously a new point that you both consider what it seemed like, right?
yeah,
I feel we need to cover our costs.
Understood. And what I'm saying to you is, in that first category,
Mhm.
from what I understand them both being employees and how they're compensated and how that package is paid for already by the taxpayers, that is already compensated. Already paid for by the taxpayers. Now, if you want to delve into further, because there's a business aspect that you mentioned could be a variable. The businesses also pay taxes, but you raise an example about renters and so forth. But the property that's being inspected, that the services is happening to, somebody's paying taxes on.
Mhm.
So the question could be, what percentage of those taxes is covering this fee? Is it enough to cover that fee?
Bottom line, I don't think it's fair to the taxpayers of the town that to be subsidizing this burden. I think it should be spread.
When you say taxpayers, you're including businesses,
I'm including everybody that pays real estate taxes.
right? But it's businesses that have to have these services done.
Mhm.
So if they're already paying taxes, And and the money that's being covered
Mhm.
is already in the tax base because they're employees.
Then I'll bring the question back to you. Why do we charge fees anyway?
Well, in this particular group, Colleen wasn't always with us. We didn't always have.
Yeah, but I'm talking about fees, all Board of Health fees.
Oh, well, now you want to go to,
Do we do it just because?
no, now if you want to go to another category where we get billed for services from Steve Donatelli, Tom Ryder, that's a different story. That's an outside expense. That's a bill,
Right,
that a service that we have to cover
Mhm.
because we got to pay a outside bill. It's not like Steve Donatelli and Tom Ryder are employees of the town,
Mhm.
where their hourly rate and healthcare package is paid for, and it's in the taxes. That's a different story. That's another variable.
Tonight, are we ready to do any of this?
Oh, yeah.
Jack's suggestion, do we need to put this off to the next meeting so that everybody has more time to digest the information that was passed on to us? Because that might be what's needed.
Well, I've digested, so I'd be ready to continue if you want to continue. I have no problem.
I would like to continue only because I feel that adjustments may be appropriate.
Exactly, right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, but again, in the very beginning, I asked how we want to attack it.
Yeah.
Because just because we start at the top of the page doesn't mean we have to start at the top of the page.
No, so, well, let's just starting at the top, hang on, just starting at the top of the page. Just taking the first section,
Mhm.
the first section only, which has to do with food establishment where Jack and Colleen are involved,
Yeah,
right? Just this top section where they're involved. I know there's further down, but just that top section.
Mhm.
My vote would be at this time, because it's gonna come down to a decision that the board's gonna make. I'm saying to you, in that group, my vote would be not to adjust the fee. Now, between you and Joyce, if you decide you want to adjust the fee and you're both in agreement, absolutely. I'm just gonna say my position is no increase in that block.
Okay.
That would be my vote. So if you want to continue discussing that block,
Mhm.
as far as increases or not, keep it the same, I would leave that to you two. Because you have my view on that first block.
Okay. I'm gonna propose. Joyce, I feel as though you may be sort of in the same direction as I am for this first thing, that adjustments may be necessary,
uh-huh,
but let's wait till the next meeting
Okay,
on that section.
okay,
All right, that gives all of us time to reevaluate, make notes, whatever is necessary, so that we can continue on with that section. And if at that time, Tom, you still feel the same way, I respect that.
Sure. Who knows, I could change them.
Well, you could, or you could bring some information that would change my mind.
Yep.
You know, or make me see somewhere in between, but
Yep.
in the, to try to move on.
Yep.
We seem to be kind of indecisive or deadlocked.
You want something again? Look at that for a second.
Yeah, on that first section, let's see if we can pick a section.
Yep.
That we're all on the same page
Yep.
and we can evaluate intelligently.
Yep.
And make a decision as to whether an adjustment needs to be made or not made.
Yep.
So, let's see,
how about septic installer?
We skipping them.
Well, you told me to go down.
Does that look like a section where we might be able to all, come to some sort of agreement
Sure.
at this time?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go to hauler installer.
Mhm.
We're gonna go to septic installer. It involves Jack and the Board of Health.
Mhm.
We see the current, the proposed, we see Jack's time, we see what our total expense is. All right. Jack, I'll ask you, why do you feel 150?
again, I just randomly just threw in numbers there.
Okay, this isn't a composite of what the.
Yeah, but the other, yeah,
It is,
yes,
Okay.
Blackstone Valley.
okay. Keeping in mind that some things we may be covering our costs on, and some things we may not be covering our costs on. If the 125, this is just my opinion, seems to be working for our installers and working for us, I propose that we leave it where it is.
Now, what would be an example of what you just prefaced? You said some things we.
Okay, if I go down this total list.
Yep.
I see there are some areas where we're not coming close to covering our costs, and some areas where we are going above our costs.
Oh, so what I'd like to do is, as we're talking about each one, we should focus in on that one and not worry about what's on the rest of the page. So looking specifically at septic installer,
All right, then I gave you my opinion. Let's hear yours.
based on what I'm seeing is the expenditure
Mhm.
from our side of the house and what we charge, I would agree that the current, I would agree that we should not increase it. And potentially there's an argument for reducing it.
Okay, do you want to argue?
Well, if our true expenditure is $23
Mhm.
for that particular element, and we're charging them $125, that's a pretty good return.
Mhm.
So I guess I would ask then, is there a variable there that we could think of that we might not be covering, that we might have to address in that realm that might come along that would justify keeping it at the 125?
Well,
I don't know what that would be, because it's basically just an application that Jack gets from the septic installer, right, Jack?
Yes,
So you're processing the application.
yes.
You're saying it's basically roughly a half an hour of your time
Yes.
administratively, paperwork. Are there any times when you're chasing multiple calls, lack of responses?
Sometimes, not all the time, there are, yes.
Okay, so that might be something that might have to be spread out.
we know that a lot of times the applications don't come in complete.
Yeah.
They're missing a certificate of insurance, they're missing,
License.
yeah.
Yes.
So we know that a lot of times, especially if it's a smaller operation, they may not have included all of their paperwork
Yeah.
because they're out in the field,
Mhm.
and I understand that.
Yeah.
So I believe that the variables you're talking about, that's where those would all be covered.
Right.
Joyce?
So just so that I'm clear on what this is this per year?
Yes,
So, having just had my septic system pumped, I paid $350 for that. Okay? If he's getting $350 for every one he picks out, gets in the town that he does, he works in, and he works in this town a lot, $300 for his permit is negligible.
Where am I seeing 300 for his permit?
Septic installer.
Septic installer.
Install,
Okay, that was the proposal.
I'm not looking at the hauler.
Yeah,
Septic hauler.
we're working on installer,
Oh, installer. Oh, septic installer.
so I
Oh.
apologize, Joyce.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll move down to the next one.
Okay,
And, so if we're working on septic installer, Jack has explained to us, and we have, with little time to think, we have come up with all the variables that we're aware of, because we hear about who
Yeah.
submitted what. Do we keep it at the 125? Do we go to the proposed 150? What's thinking here?
If I may also make another recommendation. If Colleen could be here, because she's been in the Board of Health for over 2 decades. She's also on the finance committee for the Hopedale. Like, she may know reasons why their fees are charged, why the fees are cost, such and such, what they're used for. So have her input
Mhm.
onto the board amendment. That way she can answer your questions, why we charge fees, and charge your questions, why we shouldn't. Stuff like that, just
Mhm.
get her point of view and better understanding, because I don't know nothing.
I know
Wait a minute,
nothing.
that sounds like a double negative.
I don't know.
So
I don't
if,
know.
if that's the line of thinking, we need to move on to the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Okay,
If that's something the board is.
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
You know, if we're not prepared, we're not prepared.
I'm just,
I'm
all I'm saying is that, in today's environment, things are costly. He's not getting a permit for every single person that he does. Right?
Well, he's
Yeah,
getting,
it's like 1 year.
It's a
he's getting, yeah.
year license, so
he's just getting a permit from that one installer
correct
Right.
for the year,
for the year.
right? And then he's charging for every person that he goes to.
Yep.
$350,
Okay,
which is, you know, I paid $350.
Well, there's,
The old days, I paid 100.
there's a lot more to his
Correct.
pricing,
Correct,
because he's doing the same thing that we're doing. He's evaluating all of his expenses.
right, his gas and his, all the stuff
What
and
it costs to
blah, blah,
dump.
blah, blah, blah.
Right. So
So,
he is doing the same thing that we're doing,
right,
trying to come up with a
Right.
number that's workable for our customers
Right.
and for us.
but is it fair for us to consider a business's revenue or their costs of doing service against what, as to what we should charge?
We never said that.
No, she
I
made
just said
reference. She did.
I
just
did
say,
say that, yeah, I did say
And
that.
I personally don't think that's fair. I think we should be looking at what it costs us to base our fees on, not what they do out there in the business. If they can get $350 for a pump, I'll love it. But I don't think that means because he can get $350 for a pump, we should automatically raise our fees because we feel he can afford it.
Right.
The thing of it is that, oh, I'm sorry, Al.
No, that's fine. I'm defending the business, that there's a lot more that goes into them establishing their price than their permit fee,
Oh, for sure.
all right? So what they charge is of really no interest to me, because that's not part of our business, that's not part of our equation.
And I would agree with that.
So, you know,
Well, again, I think our equation is that you have to move with what's happening in the times. I mean, again, back in the day, he was charged $100.
Well, if Jack had told me that it cost us $100 to do that, or if actually it cost $150 versus 22, then I could see the argument for maybe making an adjustment. But what Jack is saying here is the cost to process that permit is $22 and change. We're getting currently $125 for that. So we're only paying $22 and change out of the 125. The rest is all profit to the town, as far as that direct relationship of the fee to what the expense is. But as we talked about, there are some times when things don't always quite aren't there, and he's got to go looking, and so
and not all the time.
not all the time, but sometimes that happens. So you got to have a buffer, you got to have a little cushion. So you don't want, that's, wouldn't want to drop the fee down to $50. That wouldn't be a little crazy.
To Jack's suggestion, do we want to get some input?
Yeah.
From our health agent?
Right. I would say,
This discussion?
yeah.
If you'd like to do that,
Well,
that's fine. I'm perfectly fine moving forward without that input. I'm just saying I'm prepared myself, but if you want to wait, if you.
Well, I
like to
think
wait,
that it'd be incumbent upon us to listen to both sides.
Yeah.
And see why they thought that would be.
Okay, so table.
back on the track. We've Made it to Board of Health Admin updates, agenda item 6, please.
All right, so for the Eversource property of Pleasant Street, last week I reached out to Peter Baldwin, the Eversource representative we have been working with regarding the reimbursement of the $150 that the town was charged to remove that mattress off the property back in May. Peter responded that he would get back to me about his request. This afternoon, I heard back and he said he's still working on it. He has to put of the flagpole to get permission or whatever.
Yeah, no,
But I did put a request in to get reimbursed for $150 that the town paid for the first mattress.
It does seem like they're cleaned up though,
Yes, they are cleaned up.
because
it
I
looked really nice.
I did go by the other day and I did pull in and,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, because I was there and I said, I think I'll just run up there and see if there's a mattress or a tire.
Yeah.
Because the tires are problematic with, especially
Oh, yeah.
with the triple E
Yeah.
these days, you know.
Were you able to turn around and come out, or did you have to back up?
Oh, no, I packed across the street
Oh, okay.
into the grass and the thing, walked across the
Walked.
street, walked up the hill. Yeah,
All right, so anything else on A? All right, then we'll move to B.
All right, so 3537 Easton Street. And about the property, Peter Coffin sent a memo to the Board of Health regarding his concerns with the infiltration basin and the extensive development of the property that has high groundwater. A memo was forwarded to Tom Murray, the BOH engineer, for his commentary. But at the last BOH meeting on September 25th, Joyce said that she spoke with Peter Coffin and that both Peter Coffin and the property owner, Kevin Meehan, had a very good conversation about Peter's concerns, and Mr. Meehan understood and agreed with Peter. And that Mr. Meehan would work on addressing the issue with his engineers. So the board wanted me to let Tom Ryder know what the conversation had taken place and would not need his review or commentary regarding Peter's memo.
So have we had any update? I know, I think you might have referenced that you were maybe gonna try to talk to Peter again to see if there's anything further.
I know, and I haven't been able to because he's been in Nantucket.
Oh, lucky guy.
I know, I thought I'd like to go to Nantucket myself.
We might have to go there to talk to him.
There you go.
And that was essentially what I was looking for, the update, how the conversation was last left at our last meeting. I just was wondering if there's any further advancement. It sounds like at this point,
Yeah,
no further update.
no,
Okay.
For 35 Cape Road, I spoke with Tom Ryder this morning, and he does not have any commentary at this time concerning the project. So I notified the planning board that this one that Tom did not have any commentary for 35 Cape Road.
You notified who's?
35 Cape Road.
No, no, you said you notified somebody?
No, they-
Thank you.
Planning. Thank you. Great,
Okay,
And
and
that was what warehouse.
warehouse, that's
The warehouse.
want to make sure, okay.
awesome.
So that's it for the admin updates. And I have some health agent updates.
Please,
So on behalf of Colleen, I'm speaking for her. Colleen is drafting the orders for condemnation and will forward to the town council for their review and approval before issuing it. She wants to make sure all the Ts are crossed, the Is are dotted.
Okay.
Once she gets that back with, town council, she'll present it to the board for their review and final.
is that what this is, that she's presenting, or?
Yes, for the order of condemnation, yes. for
Correct,
43
okay.
Pleasant Street.
Yeah, that's very thorough, that's very good.
For 69 Hartford Avenue West, there are no new updates. Colleen will update the board on any progress at the next DOH meeting.
okay, that's.
And what was the
that's
problem
the old
there?
London Sun.
That was, oh, Button said, okay, yeah, I know what it is then, okay, yeah, I didn't know what number that was, yeah.
The 4549 Uxbridge Road. I reached out to Sean Reardon this past Monday for an update to the 45-day post-blast well test. And he responded that the testing is scheduled for this Friday. And also requested release both the pre-blast and the post-blast results have been requested by email and postal mail for those residents within the 300-foot blasting radius. So I'm thinking by the next BOH meeting, we should have the information from Sean Reardon regarding the results and releases.
Okay,
So Sean sent letters
Yes,
to the affected residents with that included a signed release.
signing release.
Okay. And did we ever get a copy of that signed release?
He said, once they get everything back by the end of the results, we should have everything.
I was just wondering if we had it. I know we talked about just getting a copy to see what it was that he was sending to those people. So
We have a copy of the pre-blast, test is on the solely, it's the same exact. Get a copy.
So, no, so we have a copy of a
Read the last
release form.
release.
It probably is, just post blast.
That's exactly what I was thinking, it's just a change of pre-blast, post-blast, same thing. That was one that John Mina provided to us.
Did they all approve the pre-blast release?
7 of, I don't know how many were sent out, but 7 of the properties got well tested from the.
And did they all approve the pre-blast release form?
Yes,
Just curious where they stood with it.
Yeah.
So they really shouldn't have a problem with what's.
so we'll my next.
No, that was kind of a big question, because I think at one point only 2 residents had signed and returned those papers in the beginning.
No, they were the one that brought it to our concerns and gave us free and clear of their vote results. We asked for it personally.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm the same, understanding.
Yeah, I thought there was
Two had responded, the last we heard, to confirming that they wanted to. So we seem to have a difference of viewpoints.
Let me go back to my emails to confirm. I want to say they were sent out by Sean and full up the end.
Right, but I think I was under the understanding that maybe only 2 came back out of the 7 that went out.
Right, that's what I'm of the same.
Okay, let me double check my emails.
I wasn't all on the same page.
Hey, you see, you know what happens. That's okay, it happens.
And the last one I have for Colleen is the food establishment inspections. Colleen has been busy with the 1-day events. The most recent one was the barbell and truck pull that was on Saturday, September 28th on Mason Street. And the next one that she'll be doing is the Mendon's Line Country Fair this Sunday on Mason Street in North Avenue.
Any issues with the Mandan Brush Associations at the car shop?
She said the Mendon's Brush Association was the best vendor there.
Excellent, excellent. That's recorded.
That's good.
Forever.
That's all I have for the health agent updates.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you handling 6 and 7. Can we move to agenda item number 8, topics not anticipated within 48 hours?
I have none.
Joyce?
Well, I have none either, but I just was wondering about this guy, this one here.
43 Blackstone.
Yeah, have we heard anything or done anything?
That's the condemnation that Colin's working on.
Okay.
No, we have still.
Out of curiosity, what is that you're holding up? This document, what is it you're holding? That in my packet?
No, that was back in the previous meetings.
So, yeah, the last one,
Oh, okay,
I saved it because I was
okay, gotcha.
concerned about that whole
Okay.
thing. I
Yeah.
mean, that keeps bothering me.
Yes, yeah, the same.
Agenda item number 9, good and welfare for the board.
I have none.
Joyce?
Me either.
The only thing I have is, I think the EEE concerns had reached a level that they were no longer concerns.
Right.
Yes.
We received that email.
Mhm.
I get it on my phone like practically every other
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
No, that's all good. I
Yeah,
mean, we
yeah,
haven't
no.
experienced our first
Right.
frost yet,
Right.
but it may be coming soon.
Yeah.
Enough to, really put that.
Yeah, they were talking, my
Concern
husband
us.
told me they were talking about it this week, during the week, sometime, the end of the week or something, sometime. I don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's good news to have that past us.
Yeah.
That's always a haunting concern.
Yeah.
On people trying to plan events outdoors, all the after-school events where they're getting dark earlier,
Mhm.
for all our students, student athletes. So other than that, I really don't have anything at this time, other than I hope the folks down in Florida,
Oh,
So
my brother included. weather
my
the storm
good
was
friend, my good friend lives.
Right outside of Tampa.
Right outside. So where did did he evacuate?
His wife and mother-in-law did not want to evacuate.
Oh, my
because,
God.
He's ex-military. I kind of brought that up.
Mhm.
I mean, they teach you how to make decisions,
Okay,
so they're sticking it out.
My friend is in Bradenton and
Yeah.
he left, he went into the middle. Where
Okay,
his, yeah, he
So,
drove into the middle. That's
Hopefully in like
very scary,
24 hours,
so scary.
all the folks down there that decided to stay, and even the ones that moved, let's hope they move to safe ground.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The only thing I will ask in general, are the COVID tests that we got, have they been moving?
Yeah, Tracy got another batch from me today. I gave the school a case of them last Friday.
Yep.
The library has them, the center has them, Joyce came in and took a few,
My quoters and my people that
Yeah.
come to me.
and then have a few residents
They
come in.
can-
I'll obviously take a few.
So you have a good inventory,
Yes,
and people are requesting them,
yes.
so it's great on both sides.
Absolutely.
All right,
That's all I got.
anything else? All right, folks, I'll ask, next meeting,
Next meeting is on
10:23.
23rd.
Want to make an adjustment in the time?
We can come earlier.
It's the end of October. Do we want to go to 6:30?
I'm open to that.
Works for me.
I work at the pleasure of the board, so what else can you get here? I'll get you.
5:00.
I'll be here.
Let's give 6:30 a shot.
All right.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved, Joyce.
second,
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Bye.
Tom, aye.
Right.
Good night,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Well.